Hello, and welcome to First Light's Ancient Illumination. I'm your host, Renian, and if not already, subscribe and notify up, and illumine yourself with the wisdom of old. So let's resolve, is the Most High toying with us together? First, let's examine Psalm chapter 51, verse 6, which reads, Behold, Most High, thou desirest truth in the inward parts. Now King David was the one who penned these words, and they reveal a lot. Namely, that the Most High desires us to be immersed in truth, not given to lies or falsehoods of any kind. Thus, it behooves us to examine all evidence before drawing a decisive conclusion, especially when cynicism rules with an iron fist in the present age. Now, from part 4, we learned that Sunday worship was a change or variation to what the Messiah practiced and was accustomed to. We also discovered that Sunday worship had nothing to do with the resurrection, since the Messiah had already risen. And per the 1910 Catholic Church Catechism, we learned that Sunday worship was the invention of sinful man. But then we ran into this conundrum. Why did the Messiah meet up with his disciples on the first day of the week? And doesn't this prove that he was instituting Sunday worship? Well, let's find out. Let's see what the disciples were doing and then did. That is, do we have praying and singing and tithing and preaching, the typical trimmings of Sunday worship? Picking up in John chapter 20, verse 19, it reads, Then the same day at evening, when the doors were shut, where the disciples were assembled for fear of the Jews, came the Messiah and saith unto them, Peace be unto you. Now honestly, we could stop here. The disciples not only had a closed-door policy for potential seekers of truth, they were also hiding out of fear of the Jews on Sunday. Next, the Messiah simply said, Peace be unto you. This was to calm them down. And it wasn't followed up by, Open up these doors and have worship service on my new sacred day. Rather, he showed them his wounds, recalled their mission, which they had ceased in his absence, and breathed the spirit of remission upon them. Now question, when was the last time you went out remitting sins on Sunday? Because this is the only directive that can be inferred from this passage. But what about when Thomas came through the following week? Doesn't this prove that the Messiah was establishing a new pattern of worship? Well, actually the verse says after 8 days. This would make the disciples' next messianic encounter on Monday. However, for those who wish to start counting on a more than spent Sunday, then the 8 days would fall upon Sunday again. Nonetheless, this detail is of no consequence. For the Messiah stood once again and said nothing about worship service. Rather, he behaved quite the same as on the first day post-resurrection. And if anything, he proved his ascension and acceptance by the Father as an acceptable he-lamb without blemish. For earlier in John chapter 20, verse 17, the Messiah had said these words to Mary, Touch me not, for I am not yet ascended to my Father. But by the time Thomas comes around 8 days later, the Messiah is very lax about this topic of touching. So what about Pentecost? Why did Peter preach on Pentecost, which was on the first day of the week as well? Again, we turn to Leviticus chapter 23 for the answer. Count from the morrow after the Sabbath 7 Sabbaths, and the morrow after the 7th Sabbath shall ye number 50 days, and the selfsame day is an holy convocation unto you. Now in pagan terms, this verse would read as follows. Count from Sunday 7 Saturdays, and the Sunday after the 7th Saturday shall ye number 50 days. The selfsame day is a holy convocation unto you. So hold on. You mean the Most High has been utilizing Sunday ever since the time of Moses? You better believe it. And not only utilizing it, but making one such day the Feast of Pentecost, aka First Fruits, one of the 3 feasts not to be missed. As it is written, 3 times annually thou shalt keep a feast, the feast of unleavened bread, of first fruits, and of ingathering, and all thy males shall appear before the Lord God. Thus, the Most High commanded every Israelite male to appear before him. And so, when we get to Acts chapter 2, it should come as no surprise that the Torah-observant Israelites did exactly that. They appeared before the Most High in Jerusalem as commanded. And there we have it. The Sunday Sabbath conundrum resolved, with no contradiction at all. But what about the Apostle Paul? Certainly he spoke against such an antiquated way of life, against this day of Pentecost. After all, he was an apostle and teacher of the Gentiles. Well, Funny thing is, Paul actually looked forward to keeping the feast day, as Acts chapter 18 verse 21 records him as saying, I must by all means keep this feast that cometh in Jerusalem. But if this is so, why does Colossians chapter 2 verse 16 tell us not to judge in respect of a holy day? And better yet, why does Galatians chapter 4 verse 9 warn us about observing days and months and times and years? Well, tune in next time as we discuss, did Paul condemn the holy days? Anyway, thanks for your support, and aid us in elucidating antiquity by simply leaving a thumbs up. This is Renaya with Ancient Illumination, signing out. Shalom.